Hey there guys, and welcome back to our channel, Math is My Jam. Today's video is about ratios and word problems. So let's go ahead and jam right into it. For this first problem, Jariel owns a poster store. He currently has 120 movie posters and 100 band posters. He sold 24 movie posters and an unknown number of band posters. The ratio is still 120 to 100. How many band posters did he sell? I've labeled it MP for movie posters and BP for band posters. Now, the first part of the question says that Jariel sold 24 of his movie posters. So let's just think. If he has 120 movie posters and he sells 24 of them, how many movie posters does he now have? So we're going to do 120 minus 24. So I went ahead and did my math over here, and I have 120 minus 24 equals 96. And so Jariel has 96 movie posters remaining. Now we can figure out how many band posters, because we're going to keep our ratio at 120 to 100, but we're going to set it up as a proportion and cross multiply. If you know how to do it, go ahead and set it up. So we set up our proportion, and we have 120 to 100 equals 96 to an unknown number. And anytime in math where we have an unknown number, we can represent that with a variable. In this case, we're going to represent our unknown number with the letter x. And now we're going to go ahead and cross multiply to find the value for x. When we find the value for x, that's going to tell us how many band posters are remaining. It's good practice to go ahead and cross multiply the number that will multiply with the variable first to give us our variable on the left hand side of our equation. And so here we're going to have 120 times x. When we do 120 times x, we get 120x. We're going to also bring down our equal sign, and then we're going to cross multiply 100 times 96. Okay? So that's why we call this the butterfly method, because it kind of looks like a butterfly. All right, so I'm being silly, and I went ahead and drew a head and some antennas to make my butterfly, but we really don't have to do the head. We just have the butterfly wings, but that's why we call it the butterfly method. So when I multiply 100 times 96, I got 9,600. And so for the new equation that I have 120x equals 9,600. Now I can go ahead and isolate my x, and I can solve for x. So 120 divided by 120 equals 1. So what we have left is 1 times x. And we know that 1 times x equals x. And of course, we think of an equation just like a seesaw. And so right now, our seesaw is unbalanced unless whatever we did to this side of the equation, we also do to the opposite side. 9,600 divided by 120 equals 80. And so x equals 80. In my proportion, I can replace the x with the value 80, and then I can cross multiply 120 times 80. And that should give me 9,600. So why don't you go ahead and pause the video and double check if our proportion is equal. Does 120 times 80 equal 9,600? If it does, then you know we're right. For problem number 2, the ratio of North American butterflies to South American butterflies at a butterfly park near Ivy Lane is 5 to 3. The ratio of South American butterflies to European butterflies is 3 to 2. There are 30 North American butterflies at the butterfly park. How many are there of each type? Now, in this case, guys, you want to go ahead and box the question and underline the key information, such as Ivy Lane is 5 to 3, European butterflies is 3 to 2, and the fact that there are 30 North American butterflies at the park. Okay, so if you were doing this on paper, you would use those strategies to make sure that all the important information is emphasized. All right, guys, as you can see, this is a multiple step question. It's okay, don't panic, guys. We're going to take it one step at a time. So for the first thing we want to do, we want to figure out how many South American butterflies are at the park. So we set it up as a proportion once again. We already know how many North American butterflies there are, and the ratio is 5-3. This part is simple. The variable, the part that we don't know, is how many South American butterflies there are, but that won't last for long because we're about to cross multiply. So guys, you can go ahead and pause the video right here and see if you can figure out how many South American butterflies are there. Now, once you cross multiply, you should end up with 5x equals 90. Once you have 5x equals 90, go ahead and isolate your x. We're going to do the inverse operation, so it's 5 times x. We're going to divide by 5 on both sides of our equation, and that should give us how many South American butterflies are at the park. And so once you do your math, we end up with x equals 18. So that means we have 18 South American butterflies at the park. Time to move on to part 2 of our question. And so for this part, just like we did on the last part, we're going to go ahead and set it up as a proportion. Now that we have it as a proportion, guys, we just found out that we have 18 South American butterflies. Since we have 18 South American butterflies, we can go ahead and label. I have SA for South American and EU for European. The ratio is 3:2, and I know I already have 18 South American butterflies. So now all is left to do is go ahead and cross multiply and then isolate to find how many European butterflies are at this park. As I cross multiply, I get 3x equals 36. So the only thing left to do is go ahead and isolate my x, and then I'll know how many European butterflies exist at the park. So here we go. So when I divide both sides by 3, I end up with an answer of x equals 12. And so now I know that there are 12 European butterflies at the park. For our final question, last year at the fair, Denaya spent $10 on snacks and $20 on souvenirs. This year, she wants to keep her ratio the same, but she wants to spend $5 on souvenirs. How much will she spend on snacks this year? Go ahead and take your time to write out your important information, okay? These things are usually your numbers, so we have $10 on snacks, $20 on souvenirs. Those are important things to underline and highlight. And also, she will spend $5 this year on souvenirs. You want to highlight or underline that. And then definitely, you want to put a box around how much will she spend on snacks, because we're going to always go back to that part of the question to make sure that we've answered the question completely. Okay, so the problem says she spent $10 on snacks last year and $20 on souvenirs. The same way we've been doing, guys, we're going to set up as a proportion. But this year, we know she wants to spend $5 on souvenirs. So our job is to find out how much she's going to spend on snacks. Because snacks is the unknown value, we're going to place our variable x in our snacks column. And the 5 will go here for souvenirs because that's the known quantity. So again, we're going to do our butterfly or flutterby, right? Our butterfly method. We're going to use that to cross multiply and figure out the value for x. After I cross multiply, I get an answer of 20x equals 50. So let's go ahead and solve for x. Why don't you go ahead and pause the video and solve for x? Now you should have gotten an answer of 2.5. However, 2.5 is the incorrect answer, technically, because we're talking about money, and so we just want to be a little bit more specific. She's spending 2.5, but really what she's spending is $2.5, which we say is $2.50. Okay, and that's really all there is to it, guys. So hit like, give me a subscribe. Math is my jam. Let's rock.